Welcome to Stories with Steve, a podcast on the Central Buna Podcast Network. Every Thursday in 5 minutes or less, we'll lift you up with stories of how God works behind the scenes in our lives. Romans 8:28 tells us that God works all things together for the good of those who are called according to his purpose. Now with an encouraging story, here's Steve.
You know, I don't recommend flying out on a Christmas Eve. Watching the news, I'm seeing people after Thanksgiving and Christmas, the holidays, how crazy the airports are. And I can tell you from firsthand experience, from working in an airport and also being a passenger, how crazy it is this time of year. Well, flashback to when I was a passenger. I was in college up in Dallas and wanted to fly out to see my mother on Christmas. And so the only flight I could get was on Christmas Eve. That's back when you went through travel agents. And so I was able to get a flight on Christmas Eve. And the only caveat to that was I would have to stop over in Austin and then change airlines. Usually that wouldn't be a problem, but I decided to check a bag. Big mistake. Or was it, by the way? So I did that, and I thought, well, I've got an hour. I can get my bag. I can get checked into my flight. And so, again, how crazy it is, the baggage claim. If you've ever been in an airport, people are scrambling to find their bags. I couldn't find my bag for nothing. It was getting closer and closer to that time, and then the checkout desk, they said, you ain't got much time. So I did my run through the airport, knocking over people. No, not really. But it was almost like that, just getting there and just under my breath praying, God, let me catch this flight, please. And so I get to the gate, and you can guess what happened. The plane was taken off. The doors had been closed, and I said, oh, no, what am I going to do now? And so the people at the gate were very gracious. They said, well, we can get you to Phoenix, but it'll be in 10 hours. You'll have to fly to Las Vegas and have a short layover there to get to Phoenix. And I go, well, whatever I got to do, I'm kind of stuck out here. So I said, okay, Lord, well, there's a reason why I'm in this airport. And so, 10 hours later, it seemed like the longest 10 hours of my life. And of course, it's Christmas Eve. And so you're watching these families around together, and you're kind of alone. And I kind of felt like Kevin McAllister in Home Alone. It was kind of one of those type of deals. But I drank as much coffee. I didn't have much money on me, so I was kind of hungry. And so you know how it is when you're tired, you're hungry, and you get frustrated. But I'm sitting there at the gate, waiting for the plane to take me to Las Vegas. And I'm sitting in an airport chair. And you know how you can tell when somebody's staring at you? Well, this man was staring at me, and I kind of look up. He's in a wheelchair. He says, yeah, I know how this guy knows how to beat the system in Las Vegas. And I go, what, are you talking to me or something? I've been reading a book, and so we got in a discussion about just gambling. I said, well, I don't believe really in gambling, and about life and about the Bible and everything like that. And every time I said something, this guy just shot me down. He said, yeah, you're just like my daughter. My daughter thinks she's going to change the whole world and this and that. And it just really I felt kind of demoralized, and I felt like I wasn't really a good witness to the guy. Interesting, like I said, he was in a wheelchair, but I sensed that he was wealthy. He was wearing a gold chain, and just something about this man made me think, but he had kind of a loud personality. And so when it came time to board the plane, he was one of the first because he was handicapped, board the plane. And I promise I had to be one of the last, if not the last person to board the plane. I'm already tired, dragging what bag I had down the aisle. And so I passed by him, and he grabs me by the arm, and I'm like, oh no, I'm going to get another lecture from this guy. And now I'm looking down at him, and I can almost see a tear in his eye. And he says to me something I'll never forget. He says, young man, there's not a lot of people left like you in the world. Don't ever change. And so I thanked him, and I shook his hand, and I just had a lump in my throat going back to my chair. And I was just thinking about, wow, we don't ever really know what's going on. Sometimes when somebody is arguing on the outside, something's going on. And hopefully I planted a seed, and I never will forget that experience. And I just think about, well, if I would have, made my flight, I would have missed that opportunity. So God was definitely in that. And so that's one thing that's really great about it, is that how God works in our lives through circumstances like that. And I wonder if you've ever had an experience like that. I'd love to know about it. Remember, you've got a story to tell.